Some very liberal content is about to come out right now. Just a warning for those of you who might not lean liberal. It's all right. We can coexist, but it's going to be liberal today. We got a lot of shit to talk about. And I work blue. For those of you who don't know that, that means I cuss sometimes. My grandma used to say, you gotta lead with love, but sometimes tough love needs to be employed. We're at a point in this country where tough love needs to be employed. The other thing she said to me was, sometimes it gets so bad you just gotta cuss. So I wrote this out without cuss words, but I can't make no promises, but I'm gonna try. Okay, so here we go. I've been called upon this afternoon to inspire you, the next generation, as you embark on the next phase of your lives, adulthood. Now, full disclosure, I did my research. I watched a lot of commencement speeches online, mainly Oprah, First Lady Obama, President Obama. Good job, Billy. That's a great way not to feel intimidated, ridiculous, and downright unworthy. However, in the process of processing my feelings of unworthiness, I applied all the lessons I've learned throughout my 52 years on this earth. I am worthy. I am enough, just as I am. So let's talk, shall we? Now I'm gonna promise you all right now, and right here, that I'm not gonna pander, patronize, or lie to you, but only speak the truth, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, which, as we all know, has been under massive attack. But I want to go back to that old Bible verse that says in John 8:32, then you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Who wants to get set free tonight? This afternoon. No, I can't hear you. Who wants to get set free this afternoon? Now listen, I grew up in the Pentecostal church, and we have a call and response tradition. So I don't want y'all sitting out here like an oil painting. You've warmed up. So let's have a little practice. I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, I am worthy. I am enough. You are worthy. You are enough. We are worthy. We are all enough. Okay, that's pretty good. Y'all getting it. So, I grew up right here in Pittsburgh. About 12, yes, go ahead. Yes, Pittsburgh in the house. I grew up about a 12-minute car ride from here in a neighborhood called East Liberty, actually, not the Hill District, but East Liberty. Sliberty for short. I know y'all all know the nickname. She's cute. But my Sliberty didn't look like the one you've all come to know today. The community that's teeming with vibrancy and industry. Back in the day, when steel left our fair city, many of our thriving neighborhoods were left to rot. Not cute. Not cute at all. But I want to take a moment to shout out and thank our local government officials from days gone by, specifically the late and honorables Mayor Richard Caligiuri and Sophie Masloff, as well as Thomas J. Murphy, for understanding that the plight our city faced was not because of some nameless, faceless, undocumented immigrant who snuck into our country and stole our jobs, but they understood that the onus lie in the special interest groups whose political donor deep pockets mesmerized the imagination and lined the pockets of our government officials and lawmakers in Washington, convincing them somehow that moving American industry overseas was better because it was cheaper. And they all got richer. That is the truth. And just for the record, in case anyone is confused, unless you or your ancestors are members of the indigenous Native American community, you come from an immigrant background, period. We are all immigrants in this country. This country is made up of immigrants. Go see Hamilton, y'all. So this go back to your own country mess, it's not a thing. Stop it. I learned at an early age that I had a superpower. That superpower was my singing voice. I started singing in the church. I would feel the mood change around me. The whispering about my sissified nature would all but evaporate. And when I got to the 5th grade and slayed the all-school talent show, cause y'all know I did, the bullying stopped. I was blessed to have angels encamped all about me, swooping in and leading me down the paths that would eventually become my own personal righteousness. I'm gonna wait for that for sound. That's what we do in the movies. You know, the airplane. She passing over. Okay. I never would have made it here to Carnegie Mellon had it not been for those angels. Specifically, in this case, my angels were Peggy Hughes Russlander and Lenora Nimitz. These ladies were my educators in the drama department at the Pittsburgh High School for the Creative and Performing Arts. Yes. So, you know, my plan was to graduate from high school, move to New York City, and be a star. One afternoon, when I was minding my own sassy, naive black business, I was yanked by my ear into the teacher's office. Miss Hughes said, "I hear tell you think you're moving to New York after graduation." "Yes, ma'am, that's the plan." "Well, here's the truth, young man. You're talented, one of the greatest voices I've ever heard. You dance like a dream. But every time you open up your mouth to speak, it's a disaster." I looked to Lenora Nimitz for some moral support. She was shaking her head in agreement. Miss Hughes had a plan. She said, "So here's how this is gonna go. We're gonna spend the next month or so getting you ready for auditions for Carnegie Mellon." I cut her off. "First of all, I can't afford college. Second of all, if I do go, I most assuredly won't be staying in Pittsburgh to do it." This is when Miss Hughes informed me that Carnegie Mellon was not only one of the best universities in the country, but also that its conservatory drama program was one of the greatest in the world. This brings me to the conversation in our zeitgeist where we, people of color, and the underprivileged in general speak about access and opportunity. How can one access and reap the benefits of opportunity if we don't even know what the thing is? How do we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps if we don't even know where to find the boots? This university is a 12-minute drive away from my childhood home, and I didn't even know it was here till some good white people told me. Thank God. Blessedly, I have the distinction of being the last generation of the underprivileged sect to benefit from a government that cared about its people. There were laws and benefits developed to uplift those of us who found ourselves born into what Pulitzer Prize winner Isabel Wilkerson calls the unacknowledged American caste system. And make no mistake, the racial hierarchy that governs these United States of America is indeed a caste system. And those government programs that were instrumental in making me the man that I am today no longer exist. As a matter of fact, many of our current leaders in Washington have vilified and labeled these intentional and useful programs as entitlement. Boo. I arrived here at Carnegie Mellon in the fall of 1987, and to be honest and truthful, like I promised, my time was fraught. In an effort to make me marketable in a world where toxic masculinity reigns supreme, I found myself mired in a constant cesspool of homophobia. I was told by a voice and speech teacher at the end of my first semester sophomore year that my speaking voice was too high for the American stage and I would never work. They were ready to kick me out of the program. Oh, but I had something for them. I came here to study my craft, and I put 4 years of my life aside to do so. And even with all the scholarships and grants I was awarded, that $20,000 a year price tag was high, and it was all my responsibility. So when the professor suggested I be cut from the program, I reminded her and the entire department that if, in fact, my inherent voice was a problem, in December, it had been a problem since August. I pay $20,000 a year for y'all to fix it. Do your job. They weren't ready for me, and they did do their job. I also had a traumatic experience with a history teacher whereby I wrote a term paper in the creative form of a short story. I was so proud of myself because I hated history class with a passion. And now in retrospect, I understand that my body was rejecting the half-truths and straight-up lies of our history taught in our American classrooms. When I got my paper back, my grade was an F, coupled with a lovely note from my professor that said, leave your drama in acting class. Sometimes our leaders are wrong. Sometimes our teachers are wrong. And that's okay. I share these uncomfortable and complicated stories with you all because I need you to understand that in your life's journey, there will always be complications to navigate, and that's okay. I encourage you to be open to the lessons the universe is trying to teach you. In the second semester, and let me just say this, I'm gonna go off script for a minute. We speak so much about the traumas that we endure, and I want to say, I had the time of my life here too. Both things coexist. We have to hold space for all the things at the same time. That's what life is. I learned here how to be an artist. I learned the difference in being an artist or being a celebrity. They're very different things. Sometimes, when we reach a level of success in show business, celebrity comes along with it. But it's not the reason why we do it. I learned that here. And I thank you all for teaching me how to be an artist. I also met my chosen family that here over 30 years later, I speak to almost every week. That's what you have sitting beside you. Please know that and understand that. It's a beautiful thing. Hold on to it. with your very lives. In the second semester of my senior year, I booked a slot in the original Broadway cast of Miss Saigon. Ironically, I left here as the first in my class to land a job on Broadway, arguably the highest level of what is considered the American stage. My job was considered a paid partnership, so I received the required credits to graduate with my BFA in drama in the spring of 1991. The lesson, the challenges you learned to navigate in the years here prepared me for the challenges that I would now have to navigate for the rest of my life. My times here were magical, and I thank you for that. Your queerness will be your liability. That was the messaging I have received for the entirety of my life. Starting at 5 years old, when my very loving and religious family sent me to a psychologist every Wednesday after kindergarten because I was way too much of a sissy and I needed to be fixed. And through every marker in my life, I have been confronted with well-meaning, loving allies who truly believed that the demand for me to conform to some performative version of masculinity on theirs, and quite frankly, the entire world's terms, was somehow going to give me the desires of my heart. I lived through decades of despair knowing that I would never be masculine enough to succeed. One of my favorite acting teachers and head of drama in the years I was here, Elizabeth Orion, stood on a stage that looked very similar to this and opened her graduation remarks with this quote by Shakespeare's Hamlet. "To thine own self be true, and it must follow the night, the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man." Pretty straightforward, right? Pretty simple and clear, right? But what happens when your personal truth is not a truth that's popular? Let me say that again. So what happens when your personal truth is not a truth that's popular? Then what? And the truth shall set you free. Lean into your truth anyway. No matter what your mama say, no matter what your daddy say, no matter what your pastor and your church may say, no matter what laws or government, our government may erect to erase and silence you. Choose your truth anyway. Because still, the truth will set you free. After my first decade in the business and around the turn of the century, I found myself at the crossroads of Broadway and soul. My Broadway career had left me unfulfilled, and I was put out of the mainstream R&B music business on account of my queerness. And it was in this moment that I made the decision that would change the trajectory of my life forever. It was in this time I decided to choose myself, and I decided to choose my truth. Now, don't get it twisted. Just because I chose to step out on faith and choose myself doesn't mean that any part of the journey was peaches and cream. Things got worse before they got better. My life and career took a nosedive. I hit the rockiest of rock bottoms in 2007. February of that year, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. March, I filed for bankruptcy. And by June, I was diagnosed HIV positive. I had no money, no job, no place to live. I had become the statistic that the whole world said I would be. My religious community cursed me from their bully pulpits, prophesying that my queerness meant and my truth meant that I would never be blessed. It seemed as if they were right. Everybody was right. My queerness had indeed become my liability. Oh, but the truth will set you free. I fell down, but I got up. I gotta take a little sip of water, y'all. You see, it's human nature to try to make sense of the universe based on what we already know. But in truth, the more we know, the less we can comprehend. In or around 2009 or 10, it was announced on Playboy.com that Harvey Fierstein and Cyndi Lauper were adapting the English film Kinky Boots into a musical. I had seen this film in the movie theater about 10 years prior and was shook by the tale of a black drag queen who helps to save a fledgling shoe factory's ultimate demise. The character of Lola was intelligent, proud, and firmly planted and grounded in his/her authenticity. To be black, queer, and out in this world is a revolutionary act. And I saw myself in the character of Lola. And I knew deep in my soul that this opportunity would be a game changer, not only for me, but for generations of black, queer, musical theater church sissies to come. I knew I had done the work. I had lived a life of hard work and preparation, and there was no one else but me. The act of choosing myself, my truth, had finally led me to what I can truly say is the promised land. They were right for a time. My queerness was my liability for decades, until it wasn't. Now, I'm not gonna bore you with what came next, because that's probably the part y'all already know. And you can read it a more in-depth account in my memoir, Unprotected, published by Abrams Press. Yes, that's a shameless plug. Help me get on that New York Times bestseller list, kids. I won the Tony and Grammy Awards for originating the role of Lola in the smash hit musical Kinky Boots. And I went on a few years later to originate the role of Pray Tell in the FX drama series Pose, where I won an Emmy Award for Best Leading Actor in a Drama Series and have the distinction of being the first openly gay man to do so, black, white, or otherwise. I know y'all heard that, but it was already in the speech, so I repeated it. And the truth shall set you free. Okay, so now I have a platform, right? And apparently some folk want to hear what I have to say, right, Farnham? So now I want to pivot our focus to the state of our union and the responsibility that we all have to engage. I promised I would tell you the truth, and sometimes the truth ain't pretty. I wish I had better news, but I don't. America is a shit show right now. It is, and not just America, it's the entire world. The collective trauma of the last few years is unprecedented for your generation. I'm sorry that we could not shield you from these realities from these horrors. I'm sorry that we haven't been able to hold on to the gains, the equality gains made in this country during the 20th century. You were all born having rights that generation upon generation fought for you to have. You've never known anything different till now. Now you know, and here we are. And the truth shall set you free. I've been around long enough to have seen some things. I came out as gay in 1985, and we went straight to the front lines to fight for our rights and our lives during the AIDS crisis. And I have to say, the horror show that has been our government's lack of leadership during this COVID pandemic is eerily familiar to what my LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters lived through during the AIDS crisis. The PTSD effect still courses through my veins every single day. Because you see, like you, I was born into rights like the Civil Rights Act of '64, the Voting Rights Act of '65, hard won by the activists who laid down their lives for that long overdue justice for Black people in this country. I was 3 years old when Roe v. Wade passed, and I was on the front lines for the fight for marriage equality. And now all of our process seems to be, is evaporating into thin air. This is not hyperbole. And the truth shall set you free. The messaging has to change. The messaging has to change. Because, when I was coming out, the civil rights people, be like, I was born by the river in a little tent. Just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but a change is gonna come. There was hope, right? Our mission was built on the hope of a new day. We shall overcome. We sang, we shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We had something to fight for, we had something to work towards, as if we would arrive somewhere. There was this finite destination, it seemed to be. And we did, in fact, seem to arrive somewhere, right? We got there, we overcame. The change rights came. Roe v. Wade, civil rights, voting rights, LGBTQ plus rights, marriage equality, rights. Here, slam, back, clap, work. Oh, we got a Black president. We won. And we all took a sigh of relief, sat on our sofas, and ate bonbons for 8 years. And then the unthinkable happened. And here we are. What are we going to do about this mess? Frederick Douglass said, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. For the cheap seats in the back, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. The messaging has to change. We must tell ourselves the truth. America is not now, nor have we ever been, better than this. Nothing that's going on right now is new. Nothing. But we gotta fight. I know we did this already. We did it already. And nobody ever thought we'd have to do it again. But we do. The messaging has to change. We don't arrive anywhere. The work never stops. We must stay present. We must stay vigilant for our entire lives. This is the new message, so we don't get tired. So we don't get fatigued. We can't get tired now. We can't. There's too much at stake. Democracy is at stake, y'all, for real, for real. Yes, when they go low, we go high. But it's time to redefine what going high means in this new world order. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we were all sold a bill of goods that we would arrive somewhere and be able to relax. Get that out of your heads right now. That is not what it is. Humanity is at stake. Are we clear?
Yes.
And the truth shall set you free. I'm almost done. I came here this afternoon with an agenda. I did. The gay agenda, the black agenda, whatever agenda you want to call it, I came here with an agenda. I own every part of that truth, and my agenda is to ignite a fire and a passion in your bodies, minds, and spirits for service. We are all in this together, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I feel hope bubbling under the surface. And our collective trauma is real. None of us are okay. Turn to your neighbor and say, none of us are okay. And that's okay. Let's get okay together. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, y'all. I need you to take care of your minds, honey. Ain't no stigma no more. Get your little asses in therapy. It's a lot cheaper now. Put some money aside for it. You can even do it on your phones. Get your mind together. In closing, ish. My mouth is dry because I talk too much. I would like to leave you with some truths, quotes, whatever you want to call it, that I've come across from various sources to think on. A hard head makes a soft behind. 15 minutes early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. Never wait for anyone to give you permission to practice your art. You must be practicing it all the time, even when no one's listening, and most of the time, no one's listening. My Aunt Dot used to tell me, dress for the job you want, not the one you have. Y'all's ex-president said, grab her by the pussy. He did not say vagina or private parts. He said pussy. Tell the truth, y'all. Tell the truth. Toni Morrison. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There's no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. This is how civilizations heal. The First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Translation: separation of church and state. If you don't believe in gay marriage, don't marry a gay person. If you don't believe in or agree with abortion, don't get one. That's when I would usually land an expletive, but I didn't. I just did. What the? Silence equals death. There's no such thing as alternative facts or misinformation. It's called lying. It's not fake news just because you don't like the real news. You can't take none of this with you. You can't take none of this with you. Tony Kushner's Angels in America. I have lived through such terrible times, and there are people who have lived through much more. But you see them living anyway. When they're more spirit than body, more swords than skin, when they're burned and in agony, when flies lay eggs in the corners of the eyes of their children, they live. Death usually has to take life away. So we live past hope. If I can find hope anywhere, that's the best I can do. January 6th was an insurrection to overthrow our democracy. Period. When people show you who they are, this is Maya Angelou. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." James Baldwin. To be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage all the time. James Baldwin again. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Tony Kushner, one more time from Angels in America. We won't die secret deaths anymore. The world only spins forward. We will be citizens. The time has come. You are all fabulous creatures, each and every one of you, and I bless you. More life, the great work begins. And one last one. And I want y'all to repeat after me, and this is a good one. And repeat and say it loud back at me, because I need to know that you hear it. I do not now.
I do not now.
Nor will I ever.
Nor will I ever.
Adjudicate my life or humanity.
Adjudicate my life or humanity.
In sound bites.
In sound bites.
On social media.
On social media.
Y'all got that? Time to put your phones down and get in the streets, kids. Now, like I said, I did come with an agenda. I got to take this robe off so you can see it for a second. Take it off. What does this say? What does this say? our bodies. Now, in real closing, you know, the church is still in me. The good book also prophesies that there will be wars and rumors of wars. The systems that abandon humanity are our collective war. We are at war to save the soul of humanity. Thoughts and prayers don't mean shit. Hate is an action. Love is an action. Hope is an action. Peace is an action. Ain't nobody coming to save us from ourselves but ourselves. It's time to set the world on fire, kids. What will you do? Who will you be? God bless you all. Thank you. Congratulations.